Welcome back to the Homestretch podcast. Today's episode, I'm going to dive deep into all of our solicitor feuds, bringing you all the raw, emotional, and slightly infuriating stories about solicitors, including miscommunication, delays, missed inquiries for weeks on end, lifetime ISAs that came out far too early that led to the most stressful time of our lives when we bought our first house. So hopefully a few things that we went through you can learn from and be a little bit more prepared for solicitors and potential issues that can come up when you are buying your house, because you hear different stories about, some people having a really smooth process and some people having a not so smooth process. And if either one is going to be the route for you, it's just good to know what it's like from someone's personal experience. So by the end of this episode, you will know exactly what to ask your solicitor and also how to choose the right solicitor for you. And most importantly, how to keep your stress levels way down when you're going through this process, because it is a wild one. So buckle up. I really hope you enjoy this episode. Let's get straight into it. So first, let's talk about what your solicitor is actually supposed to do in terms of the basic understanding when it comes to the house buying process. They are basically the legal glue that holds your whole transaction together. When you buy a house, it is one of the most biggest transactions you are ever going to make in your life. And you need a solicitor to help you through the process. You cannot do this by yourself. You need a professional. A few of their main jobs is to request and review local searches. Now, this means they'll be checking for things like your flood risk on the house, planning permissions, building sites that might be, dotted around your area. They will also be drafting and reviewing your contracts, so things that you need to sign. And these pages are so long, by the way. When you get your local searches back from your solicitors, I've never seen something so thick, and you have to read every single thing in detail. They'll also liaise with the seller solicitor, so when your searches are going on, they'll be going backwards and forwards when it comes to bringing up inquiries on the house. And this is where some issues can arise, because they'll be bouncing backwards and forwards to each other, and you'll have to stay on top of it to understand where the inquiry is at that moment, because your solicitor might ask the seller solicitor an inquiry and then they're waiting for a reply. They might have a reply. Your solicitor might not even be happy with that reply. They'll reply back, and then that's back with the seller solicitor. So it's a lot of bouncing backwards and forwards. This is why when you have a really good solicitor, it's not the only main factor in your house buying process being smooth, because if the seller solicitor is rubbish and their communication isn't good, that's going to hold up the whole sale of the house, which it happened to us. So I've got experience and first-hand experience in it. So another thing they'll do is handle your deposit money, so transferring of funds. If your funds are tied up in things like a lifetime ISA, they'll obviously help get this out. If you've also got a Help to Buy ISA, I don't know if they're still around at the moment actually, but they'll help with kind of removing those funds as well. And then finally, registering you as the new owner of your new house. They'll help, with the title deeds and all the fancy legal paperwork that you need when you buy your first home. This also includes things like land registry and things like that. And that's another issue that can crop up too. A lot of delays can come from land registry, and that is sometimes just out of your control, and you have to wait for them for a long time. So if you look at every single thing that solicitors do, they are incredible at their job, and I don't even want to know how many clients some solicitors take on, but they are a huge part of your house buying journey. So in the points that I've just made, if one part in there is delayed or messed up or is wrong or something, it backs up the whole process and delays your house buying journey, which is what happened to us. 6.5 months of delays. But a huge tip, big tip early on, is choosing the right solicitor for you. Now, even though you don't have any control over the seller's solicitor, one thing that you do have control over is yours. So either go with a, recommended solicitor of someone that's already dealt with them and knows that they're good at what they do, or go with recommended solicitors that you see good reviews online. Now, you can inquire with a few different solicitors, ask them, what their caseload is, how long things could take, obviously they'll give you a rough estimate and probably overestimate it just to like handle your expectations. But you want to make sure that the communication style is good. You know, asking when they'll give you updates is really important too. So that's something to really bear in mind. Something we didn't do. We didn't ask our solicitor when he'll be updating us. We would just call and be really, really annoying. So that is a really good question early on to ask your potential solicitor. But yeah, your solicitor is in charge of serious money here. So you need to take this part very seriously. Now, a little bit of a rewind into our house buying journey and some of the issues that cropped up for us and how we kind of dealt with them. We had a really long, stressful house hunt to begin with. I think we were looking for houses like for 2.5 months maybe. And we knew what solicitor we were going with from the start because it was recommended by a friend. So anyways, we found the house, we put in an offer, and then we told our solicitor, you know, we've had the offer approved. Can we instruct you to start the searches on the house? Now, you have to have it in writing that you are instructing your solicitor. I don't know why you have to do that, but you just do. That's what we were told. So basically, after you know, the sellers have accepted your offer for the house, the first thing you want to do is contact your solicitors who you're going to go with and let them know via email, the offer's been approved for this price, this is the house, this is the details of the estate agents, and then they can kind of get into contact with them. And you'll also want to say to them, can I or we now instruct you to start the searches for this process? So basically after you've instructed them, they can now start their main searches. So here's a little bit what happened overall. Our solicitor was amazing. He was super quick. He was on it. His communication was really good. Every time we called him, he would sit and have a conversation with us and explain things in such great detail. We cannot fault him at all. The issues from the process were down to the seller's solicitor. Now, I have a feeling that the seller's solicitor just had a huge caseload and we were probably put on the back burner. Well, the sellers were put on the back burner because things just took a long time to come through. Things that should have been asked right at the start for the seller's new build wasn't asked until like 5 months into the process. So we had to wait another 1.5 months for that stuff to come through. It was just all a bit crazy. And, you know, I'm not putting any blame or any fault onto anyone. There's loads of things that happened. But when things are out of your control, it's so hard to not blame. And we need to remember, as you know, first time buyers and just buyers in general, when you're buying a property, that solicitors are just doing the best job that they can do. You will obviously have some that their communication style just isn't good at all. And if you're really struggling with a solicitor, take it higher with the branch that they're working at, like speak to their manager or speak to the person that owns the company. Another issue we had was that we were told, you know, we might complete soon, and this was back in November last year, and we should maybe think about taking out our LISA money. Now, I couldn't do my LISA because there's lots of reasons why. I didn't read the T's and C's, so I couldn't use the government bonus. But my boyfriend Nathan could. So he was recommended that it might be a good idea to take out the LISA money so it might not stall the process and might be one of the reasons why we won't be able to complete. But in saying that, that was the reason why we actually had to add on another like 2 weeks onto our house completion process. So it was a little bit annoying because our LISA money was taken out far too early and it was 3 months in advance. So that obviously shouldn't have happened. We reached the 90-day LISA that you can have a LISA out for. So we had to apply for an extension, which is what caused the delay. So in hindsight, don't take out your LISA unless you are about to exchange and complete on a house, because you have to wait for HMRC. It was only supposed to take a few days. It ended up taking like a week and a half and we were like, what is going on? So yeah, it definitely was the wrong decision to take it out early. But, you know, if we're told that it should be taken out early-ish, then we're going to listen to that advice. And we did that. We're still in the house now and that's all fine. So it doesn't really matter looking back at it now. Another really annoying thing that happened was the seller solicitor got Nathan's middle name wrong. Now, even though it was only one letter out, it's still legal documents and it needs to be correct. So we had to wait for that for quite a while. But when we chase the estate agents, which you can do, obviously you're not allowed to speak to the seller solicitor. However, you can use the estate agents to your advantage because they have a direct line of communication with the seller solicitor. So when we called the estate agents and said, can you please ask the seller solicitor to change the name to the correct name, they did it on the same day. So please use the estate agents to your advantage because they do really help. Another thing that went wrong was right at the start of the process, you get a contract pack. So this is also known as a seller's pack or a starter pack or things like that. It's basically the first lot of information and documents that the seller solicitor will send across to your solicitor. Now, it should only take a few weeks for this to arrive, but for some reason ours took 5 weeks and it should not have taken that long. So we basically added an extra month onto our journey because the seller solicitor didn't send it to our solicitor. And the only reason she had sent it was because we chased the estate agents for it and they said, you should have that by now. That's strange. Let's call them up and see what's going on. And it got done the same day. So that just goes to show that using the estate agents to your advantage can be a huge, huge help. So those are a few things that went wrong in our process. And then nearer the end of our process, we were finished and ready to move in before Christmas. Actually, more so beginning of November, we were ready to move. The whole time from November up until we moved in Feb this year, so what's that, 4 months, we were waiting on the seller's solicitor and the property developer that the seller's house was moving into. So he had built 9 properties. It was his first ever project and he didn't have a buildings regulation certificate or a build zone warranty. And the seller solicitor said they're not going to continue the purchase until he provides those documents, which understandably she's doing her job. But the thing is, it took such a long time to get these documents and the time was passing so much to the point where we really did think we weren't going to get this house. And the sellers were getting quite frustrated. And when we moved in and we saw the sellers afterwards, because we still speak to them now, they did say to us, we had a few thoughts and we might have just stayed here if it carried on being delayed by a few more weeks. And we were like, oh my God, so lucky that they didn't change their mind and we're in the house right now. So things happen for a reason, but all of my past examples just goes to show that it just can happen. And we didn't have many delays through our solicitor. It's more the seller solicitor. So like I said before, your solicitor can be amazing, but if the seller solicitor is bad, then that just messes things up. And if you have a chain of 4, 5, 6 other people with other solicitors, you can see where I'm going with this in terms of how delays can happen and crop up and be really annoying. But if I could go back, I would 100% ask this to our solicitor. Number 1, how many clients do you currently have? What is your caseload like? Number 2 is, how often would you check in or update? Would it be weekly? Would it be a call? Would it be an email? How often are we kind of okay to communicate with you if we've got questions and things like that? Just to make sure that you understand their communication line and how easy it would be to speak to them. And also I would ask them if they've dealt with first time buyers before. If your sellers are moving into a new build like ours was, because we knew that before, ask them if they've had experience with new builds before. I think that's quite important because when it comes to new builds, there are a few different things and we've obviously experienced, you need build zone warranty certificates and buildings regulation certificates and all this sort of jazz. So I think it's important to know if they've experienced that before. Now, our solicitor had dealt with new builds before. It's quite funny looking back actually, because he did warn us and say, new builds are a huge red flag. And we thought, no, it's easy. Surely they're moving into a new build. There's no chain. It should be smooth. But boy, was we wrong. I think when it comes to bigger new builds and, bigger new build companies, the process probably is a lot smoother because they've done it so many times. But when it's a brand new property developer, you can kind of understand that it's their first time too. So again, can't put the blame onto people, and we just kind of had to deal with the fact that it was his first time. He probably didn't know half the stuff he was supposed to do, and that's obviously why things took longer than it kind of should. But all in all, we moved in, they moved in, happy days. So that's all good. Now, deep diving into the emotional toll this took on my mental health in particular was crazy. I think buying a house is up there with one of the most difficult, stressful, crazy experiences and things to go through in life. There is so much to it, and I think it's the fact that you're not in control of things that are happening, obviously with solicitors or with the buildings and things like that. I think you have to let go of control, and because of that, you don't know where you stand, so it just makes things difficult. I don't know what to do apart from cry and try and go on a walk and clear my head, which I did a lot actually. It's seriously quite embarrassing how many times I cried over this house, and I can't even imagine going back to that time where we didn't know what was going on and there was delays, and to now being in the house, that stress instantly goes away when you get the keys, I promise you. But I do remember the calls we had with the estate agents, who weren't very nice to us on quite a lot of occasions, but that was stressful too because they weren't helping in some ways as well, and there was just a lot of miscommunication and things going wrong, and then you overthink and think to yourself, well, maybe this isn't for us because there's loads of things going wrong. But you just need to try and keep your head on straight, and you need to, de-stress in ways that you de-stress, whether that's journaling. That helped me a lot. Like, just journal out your thoughts, because when you put things onto paper, they kind of like, the energy kind of moves through you onto the words, and it kind of empties your brain a little bit. And going for walks helped me so much, like you do not understand. So if you're feeling quite overwhelmed with something, or you didn't hear an update today when you were supposed to, just take yourself out for like a half-hour walk. It clears your head so much. Like, listen to a podcast, or don't listen to anything and just like mindfully go on a nice beautiful walk on a lovely summer's day, because it's getting so hot in the UK now. But I am here to let you know that it is okay to feel helpless. It is okay to not feel in control, and that is unfortunately like a part of the process when you buy your first house. And it was horrible. You are stuck in your own head, and I feel like I was very lucky to have Nathan with me, because he was someone that really listened to me and held me together. To be honest, I was the one that was going a bit crazy, and he was just so chill. And nearer the end of the process, it kind of flipped a little bit, and it was actually me that kind of said, you know what, if this doesn't happen, then so be it, and it probably won't happen now. But then he would be the one that was worried that it wouldn't happen. And yeah, so it's, you kind of get in your own head. So if you are doing this sort of thing alone, please lean on someone close to you, whether that's a friend or a family member. I just think it's so important to have someone to talk to, and just to bounce off the way you're feeling. It's okay to feel the way you're feeling right now. It's very normal. So being able to express yourself without feeling like someone's going to jump down your throat, I think is really, really good. And if you don't have anyone to speak to, just journal your thoughts out. But a little mindful tip, if you are in the thick of it right now, is to just tell yourself and remind yourself that what is meant for you will always find you. If you are meant to have this house, you will have those keys. Like, we had 6.5 months worth of delays, to the point where I thought, there's no way we're going to have this house now. But we have this house. We have this house. So it's about being patient and just having a knowing that if it's meant for us or meant for you, then it will find its way to you. I did hear quite a few stories as well of some people on my TikTok saying, I thought I found my dream house, it fell through last minute, and then when we viewed houses again, our actual dream house came up, and that was the one that was meant for us, and they've moved in and they're really happy. So I think if your house sale does fall through, then it wasn't meant for you, but the next place is meant for you. So better things are always coming. So let's round up a few of the lessons learned and what we'd do differently if we were to do it all over again in terms of solicitors. Number one is to ask the hard questions early on. Don't be shy when it comes to asking a fair few questions to solicitors before you go with them. I think us as first-time buyers or homeowners looking to buy another house probably get a little bit uncomfortable asking loads of questions to a solicitor because we feel like we don't want to annoy them. But you are making a huge purchase. It's okay to ask questions earlier on in the process. So don't be shy. Number two, which is something that I started doing and then I stopped, but keeping a document of everything that is logged along the process. For example, when your mortgage gets accepted, when your title deed comes through and signed off and sent off, when you hand in your IDs and things like that, when things get approved all on your end and you're just waiting. Like, just having everything documented from the start of the process to the end is something that I definitely do differently, because you could then look back on it and see how far you've actually come. Number 3 is to chase earlier and chase more regularly. So I feel like at the start, again, we're first time buyers, we don't want to annoy anyone, but we should have chased the contract pack way early on in the process, which is something we didn't do. And if we did, we might have shaved off a good couple weeks and we might have been in before Christmas. Who knows? Can't turn back time now. But I think don't be scared to chase earlier. And if it's not your solicitor that you need to chase because something's with the seller's solicitor, call the estate agents that the house has been sold through and ask them where the documents are, or ask them where the inquiry answers are, because you don't want to just be stuck thinking that everything's working in the background when it's actually not. And that's literally what we did. So I don't know what happened within those 5 weeks when we were waiting for the contract pack, but if we chased earlier, we might have got it earlier. So don't be afraid to chase. And then number 4, obviously this didn't apply to us, but it can apply to you. If your solicitor isn't performing the way that you would like them to in terms of communication or just getting stuff done in general, you can switch solicitors. It's not like you're tied into them fully. Now, I don't know whether that would mean that you would have to still pay for their services. I'm pretty sure you would, but don't hold me to that. I think you would need to understand earlier on if it's a no-win, no-fee kind of like contract with the solicitor. I think you just need to know, and probably ask this earlier on actually, if the house process or the house sale doesn't go through, would we still need to fulfill the whole invoice with yourself? And then that might give you a bit of an idea as to whether it's worth changing solicitors halfway through. I feel like it would be quite a hassle, but it is better than losing your home and losing your mental clarity because you can't, like, they can't communicate with you. Do you know what I mean? So in general, the whole process just made us realise how important solicitors really are, and choosing the right one is so important. But it's just knowing that the process probably won't be smooth, or it can be completely smooth. It's just having expectations that you might have delays and things probably will crop up, and having the things in place that's going to help you get through them. So if you are in the thick of it right now with your solicitor, you are not alone. There are so many people that are going through the same thing, and you're not going crazy. They are just probably busy. You might not be chasing enough. So if you're not doing that, just be annoying and chase them. Like, we called our solicitor probably every 3 days, give or take. Definitely once a week we called our solicitors. Be prepared also to get documents at 5 p.m. on a Friday. It's really annoying because you have to wait all weekend to do anything about it. So be prepared for that. Most solicitors do that. But yeah, it is stressful, and sometimes it can seem really, really unfair and out of your control. I think because we're the ones buying the house, we feel like we have a right to know exactly what's going on all the time, and that it shouldn't be taking this long when it's like nothing to do with you. But I think it's just always good to remember that people are just doing the best they can, and you never know, your solicitor or the seller's solicitor might be dealing with something huge in their own private life at that moment. So just give people a break and just know that whatever's meant for you will find you. And ask the important questions earlier on. That's one of my main biggest takeaways. So thank you so much for listening to this episode all about solicitors and sometimes the hassle that they can cause. I really hope that you've learned something or found something of value. And if you have, please let me know. If I've helped just one person in their home buying journey, then that is all that counts for me. And I would love to hear your personal experience with solicitors. You know, has yours been really smooth? Has yours been quite difficult? Like, please let me know in the comments. I would love to know. So again, thank you so much. And I hope to see you next time on the next episode.